Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we are diving into the exciting world of Node.js, as we embark on a journey to build a comprehensive registration system from scratch. Whether you are a seasoned developer looking to expand your Node.js skills, or a beginner eager to learn, so this tutorial is designed to guide you through every step of the process. In this video, we will cover everything you need to know to create a robust registration system using Node.js, including user authentication, data validation, and database integration. So grab your favorite beverage, fire up your code editor, and let us dive into the world of Node.js together. By the end of this tutorial, you will have the knowledge and confidence to build your own registration systems and tackle even more ambitious projects. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with our latest tutorials. Now, without further ado, let us get started. So this is our testing database, and under this, we have one user table with table column like user ID, user email, user password, user name, and email verification status. Under this tutorial, we will store user password in hashed string format. And under this tutorial, we will use JWT token for validate that user is login or not when we will build login page. But in this video tutorial, when user will register, then user registration data will be stored under this user table. Now we have goes to our working directory and open in Visual Studio Code Editor. And under this first, we want to download Express Framework, MySQL library, bcrypt library, and JSON Web Token library. So in terminal, we have run this command, which will start download Express Framework, MySQL, bcrypt and JSON Web Token library. Here first, we have create one app.js file, under which we will write Node backend code and create server. Now under this, first we want to add framework, and with Express, we will effortlessly handle HTTP requests, paving way for our sleek Node.js registration system. Next we have want to include MySQL database library, and this single line sets the stage for seamless database integration, empowering our registration system with robust data management capabilities. Now we have include Node bcrypt module, which is used for password hashing and encryption in web application. Lastly, under this, we have include JSON Web Token library, which is crucial tool for implementing JSON Web Token in our application. JSON Web Token provide a secure way to transmit information between parties as a JSON object, and JSON Web Token enables us to create, sign and verify these tokens, enhancing the authentication and authorization mechanisms of our registration system. Now we have to write app is equal to express function, so this line of Node.js code initializes an express application by calling the express function. The variable app represents our express application instance, which we will use to define routes, middleware, and other configurations for our web server. With this simple line, we are laying the foundation for building robust and scalable web applications using the Express framework. After this, we have to write port variable is equal to 3000, so this code assigns the value 3000 to the variable port. In web development, port typically refers to the communication endpoint through which a web server serves HTTP requests. By setting the port to 3000, we designate our server to listen for incoming connections on port 3000 and allowing clients to interact with our Node application through this specified port. After this, we have to write app.use function, and under this function, we have to write express.json function. So this code utilizes the express.json function, the middleware provided by Express framework. It enables our Express application to parse incoming requests with JSON payloads. By applying this middleware, using the app.use method, and we ensure that our server can handle requests containing JSON data, making it easier to process and manipulate JSON objects within our application logic. After this, we want to serve static files, like HTML, from the root directory. So we have to write app.use function, and under this, we have to write express.status function, and under this function, we have to write directory name. So this code will set up Express middleware to serve static files, such as HTML and CSS, and client-side JavaScript, from a root directory. Here, directory name refers to the current directory of the Node script. After this, we want to make database connection, so here, we have to write database variable is equal to MySQL.createConnection function. Under this function, we have to write host as key, and in value, we have to write localhost. Next, for define user name details, so we have to write user as key, and in value, we have to write root. After this, for define database password details, so we have to write password key, and in value, we have to write password. And lastly, for define database name details, so we have to write database key, and in value, we have to write testing database. So this code will establishes a connection to a MySQL database using the MySQL module. And it creates a database object using the createConnection method. Now for check database connection, so first, we initiate a connection to our MySQL database using the connect method of our database object. Under this function, we pass a callback function, which takes error as its parameter. Now, we check if there is an error occur during the connection attempt. If an error is present, so we log a detailed message using console.error, which indicating the issue with connecting to MySQL. Otherwise, if the connection is successful, we log a confirmation message using console.log, reassuring us that we are now connected to our MySQL database. So this block of code ensures that we handle any connection errors gracefully and confirm successful connections. Next, below this, we have to write secret key variable is equal to this key, which we will use for generate JSON web token at the time of login. Now we want to display register form when user has come on the root of this application. So first, we define a route handler for the GET request to the root URL. So for this, we have use the app.get method, which is provided by the Express framework. Inside the parentheses, we specify the route slash and provide a callback function, which takes request and response as its parameters. This function is executed when a GET request is made to the root URL. Now, within the callback function, we use the response.sendFile method to send the index.html file to the client. We construct the file path using directory name statement, which represents the directory name of the current module, and concatenate it with index.html. This line ensures that when a user accesses the root URL of our application, then they are served with the index.html file, which effectively rendering the home page of our web application. Now we have create one file with name like index.html. And under this file, we have paste this sample HTML code, in which we have used Bootstrap library. Under this file, first we have want to create register form, so here we have to write form tag with ID is equal to register form. Under this form, forget user name details, so here we have to create one text box, so we have to write input type is equal to text, with name attribute is equal to name, and ID attribute is equal to name. After this, forget user email details, so here we have to create one text box, so we have to write input type is equal to text, with name attribute is equal to email, and ID attribute is equal to email. Next, under this form, forget user password details, so here we have to create one password field, so we have to write input type is equal to password, with type attribute is equal to password, and value attribute is equal to password. Now for submit form data, here we have to write input type submit, and value attribute is equal to register, so by click on button, form data will be submitted. So here, our register form is ready. Now we want to submit form data by using JavaScript fetch API. So for this here, we use the document.getElementById method to select the HTML element with the ID register form. This element is typically a form in our web page. Next, we attach an event listener to this form using the addEventListener method. We specify that we want to listen for the submit event, which indicating that the form is being submitted. When the form is submitted, the callback function provided as the second argument will be executed. Inside this function, we use the async keyword to indicate that it is an asynchronous function. This allows us to use await inside the function, enabling us to perform asynchronous operations, such as making HTTP requests or interacting with databases without blocking the main thread. Under this, first, we call event.preventDefault method to prevent the default behavior of the form submission, which would cause a page reload. This ensures that we can handle the form submission asynchronously without leaving or refreshing the page. Next, we retrieve the values entered by the user into the form fields for name. We use document.getElementById method to select input element by its ID and retrieve its value. Same way, we retrieve the values entered by the user into the form fields for email. And here also, we use document.getElementById method to select input element by its ID and retrieve its value. After this, we retrieve the values entered by the user into the form fields for password. And here also, we use document.getElementById method to select input element by its ID and retrieve its value. Now for handle error, so here, we have used try catch block. And under this try block, now, we are ready to send this data to our server for registration. So here, we have to write response variable is equal to await fetch API with two parameter. In first parameter, we have pass register API link, and in second parameter, we have to define different option. So here, in method option, we have to write post, so it will use post method for send data. In second option, we have to write headers, and in value, we have to define content type JSON. In third option, we have to write body, and in value, we have to write JSON.stringify method. And under this, we have to write name, email and password variable, so this data will be sent to server. Now we want to check server response, so here we have to write if statement, and under condition, we have to write response.ok. If this condition true, that means user successfully register under this system. And we want to display success message on web page, so here we have to create one span tag with ID attribute is equal to message area. And here we have to create one message area variable is equal to document.getElementById method. And under this, we have write span tag ID message area, so here we have store this tag property under this variable. Now for display success message, here we have to write message area variable dot inner HTML property is equal to this HTML code, and between this, we have to write user registered successfully, which will be display success message on web page. But suppose there is any validation error occur, then it will execute else block of code. And here we have to write data variable is equal to await response.json method, which will receive validation error data from server. And for display validation error, here we have to write message area variable dot inner HTML property is equal to this HTML code, and between this, we have to write data.error variable, which will display validation error on web page. But suppose there is any internal server error occur, then it will execute catch block of code. And here, for display validation error on web page, we have to write message area variable dot inner HTML property is equal to this HTML code, and between this, we have to write internal server error, so here front end code is ready. Now we have goes to app.javascript file, and here we define a route handler for the post request to the register endpoint. We use the app.post method provided by Express framework for this purpose. Inside the parentheses, we specify the route register and provide a callback function, which takes request and response as its parameters. This function is executed when a post request is made to the register endpoint. Under this, we have used try catch block for handle error. Under this try block, we are using destructuring assignment to extract the name, email, and password properties from the body object of the incoming request. This object contains the data sent by the client in the request body, typically in JSON format. Now we are performing a validation check on the user registration data. So we have use an if statement to evaluate whether the name, email, or password variables are falsy, indicating that one or more required fields are missing or empty. If any of these fields are missing or empty, so we return a response with a status code of 400, with bad request using response.status400. We also send back a JSON object containing an error message, instructing the client to provide all required fields. After this, we want to check the email is already exists in the database or not. So for this, we have to write database.query method with 3 parameters. In first parameter, we have to write select query like select star from user table, where user email is equal to question mark. So this query will check email is already exists in database or not. In second parameter, we have to write email variable, and in third parameter, we have to write asynchronous callback function with 2 parameters like error and results variable. So this code will execute this select query for check particular email is already exists or not. And after query execution, it will execute this callback function. So first we want to check there is any error occurs. If there is any error occur, then it will execute if block of code, and here we have to write return statement with response.status method with 500 internal server error code with JSON method. And under this method, we have to send error message to client in JSON object. But suppose there is no error occur, then it will execute other code. And next, we have to write if statement, and under condition, we have to write results.length greater than 0. If this condition true, that means email already exists in database, and it will execute if block of code. And under this block, we have to write return statement with response.status method with 400 code. And after this, we have to write JSON method, and under this, we have to define error like email already exists. But suppose email is unique, then it will execute other code, and now we want to generate hashed password. So here, we have to write hash password variable is equal to await bcrypt variable.hash method with 2 argument. In first argument, we have to write password variable, and in second argument, we have to write length. So this code will convert simple string password to hashed formatted password, and store under this variable. Now we want to insert user registration data under user table, so here we have to write database variable.query method with 3 parameters. So in first parameter, we have to write insert data query like insert into user table with table column like user email, user password, and user name. And values get from 3 question mark. So this insert query will insert data into database. In second parameter, we have to define form data like email, hashed password and name variable. And in third parameter, we have to write callback function with error variable as argument. Under this callback function, first we want to check there is any error occurs or not. If error occurs, then it will execute if block of code, and under this block, we have to write return statement with response.status method with 500 code with JSON method. And under this method, we have to define error message, so this error will be sent to client. But suppose data successfully inserted, then we have to send success message to client. So here, we have to write response.status method with 200 code with JSON method. And under this method, we have to write message as key, and in value, we have to write user registered successfully, so this success message will be sent to client. But suppose there is any internal server error occur, then catch block of code will execute. So here also, we have to write response.status method with 500 internal server error code. And after this, we have to write JSON method with error message, so this error will be sent to client. So here our code is ready, with error handling both at client and server side. Now here, we have to write app.listen method with two parameter. In first parameter, we have to write port variable, and in second parameter, we have to write callback function. So it will start server on defined port number, so here our code is ready. Now we have goes to terminal, and here we have to write node app.js command, which will start server, and here we can see that MySQL database connection successfully message, and server run on 3000 port number, message in terminal. Friends, here we have open localhost with 3000 port in browser. So here, on web page, we can see that register form has been displayed on web page. First we want to check validation is working or not, so we have simply click on register button. So after click on button, here we can see that validation error has been displayed on web page. That means here, our validation is working properly. Now we want to check user registration is working or not. So here in registration form, we have to fill all details, one by one. And after this, we have click on register button, so after click on register button, here we can see success message on web page. That means here, registration code working properly. Now in database, here we can see that password has been stored in hashed string format, and not password stored in simple text. Now we want to check email is already exists code is working or not. So in registration form, we have to do registration with same email address and fill other form details. And after this, we have to click on register button. So after click on button, here we can see that email already exists message has been displayed on web page. So here we have make registration form with required field validation and email already exists validation, and we have also handle error at both client side and server side also. In next part, we will make login page by authenticate user using JWT token, so we will be meet in next part.